They spent years trying to break through solid rock into a mesa in the Utah desert. A formation local warnings had cautioned people to leave alone for generations. When they finally did break through, the team's excitement turned to something else entirely. And within that same episode, they were reportedly trying to figure out how to seal the opening back up. This is the true documented story of what actually happened when investigators at Skinwalker Ranch finally broke through the mesa, told the way history deserves to be told, separating what was actually filmed and confirmed from what remains, to this day, unverified. Before we go inside the mesa itself, we need to understand the ground it sits on, because this formation did not become mysterious the moment a production crew arrived. It carried meaning long before that. The ranch sits on 512 acres in the Uinta Basin of northeastern Utah, bordering the Uinta and Ouray Indian Reservation, land historically associated with the Ute people. This is verified, documented fact. The popular name attached to the property borrows from Navajo tradition, specifically the concept of Yi-Nidlushi, a feared shape-shifting figure in Navajo spiritual belief. It is worth being precise here, because the ranch itself sits primarily on land connected to the Ute tribe, not the Navajo Nation. And the two traditions have often been blended together under one commercial name, something Native writers and scholars have identified as a genuine concern, not a minor detail. For most of the 20th century, this was simply a working cattle ranch. That changed in 1994, when Terry and Gwen Sherman purchased the property and soon began describing disturbing experiences, unexplained animal deaths, strange lights, and encounters they said defied rational explanation. These remain reported claims made directly by the family, never independently verified through confirmed physical evidence. By 1996, the Shermans sold the ranch to aerospace entrepreneur Robert Bigelow, who founded the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS, to formally investigate the property using cameras, sensors, and trained personnel. That multi-year investigation is verified fact. Its findings were later compiled in the 2005 book Hunt for the Skinwalker, written by journalist George Knapp and biochemist Colm Kelleher, one of the lead field investigators, a book of testimony and recollection, not peer-reviewed science. In 2016, Bigelow sold the ranch to Utah real estate developer Brandon Fugel through his company Adamantium Real Estate for a reported $4.5 million. In 2020, Fugel went public as owner and became executive producer of a new History Channel series, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, following a team led by principal investigator Eric Bard and astrophysicist Dr. Travis Taylor. That series is where the Mesa breakthrough story actually unfolds. According to local accounts predating the show, a long-standing warning had circulated around the ranch and the surrounding area for years, that certain ground should never be disturbed, and that digging into specific formations, including the Mesa, carried real risk. For much of the show's early seasons, that warning was treated largely as folklore, a piece of regional color layered alongside the more scientific instrumentation the team relied on. That began to change once drilling operations targeted the Mesa directly. According to official episode descriptions and production materials released by the network, the team spent an extended period, described across multiple seasons, attempting to drill through solid rock into the Mesa Formation, working with contracted drilling crews, including Thomas Winterton and Mark Construction Incorporated, who documented the operation's slow progress in real time. In one documented account from later in the drilling effort, the crew had advanced only around 400 feet of a planned 675-foot bore after roughly 2 months of continuous work, illustrating just how difficult and slow this specific excavation actually was. This is a verified, documented production detail, not a dramatized claim. The breakthrough itself is described in the network's own official episode summary for the installment titled Full Metal Mesa. According to that summary, as the team finally drilled into the solid rock of the Mesa, they discovered a mysterious void containing what is described as an impenetrable object, an event the network's own materials describe as causing one of the most dangerous and threatening happenings the team had experienced up to that point. This is a documented, publicly released production description, confirmed directly through the network's episode materials, not a claim invented for this account. Here is where we have to be especially careful, because this is exactly the point where dramatic television framing and independently confirmed historical fact begin to diverge. What is documented is this: a drilling operation reached a void inside the mesa. An object inside that void could not be penetrated by the drilling equipment being used at the time. The network itself describes the resulting on-camera events as dangerous and threatening. These are documented elements of the production, confirmed through officially released episode materials. What remains unverified is the specific nature of what made the moment dangerous, whether it involved equipment malfunction, environmental hazard, unexplained instrument readings, a subjective sense of danger felt by the crew, or something else entirely. As of the most recent publicly available information, no independent, peer-reviewed account of this specific event exists outside the television production itself. According to fan-documented timelines and subsequent episode summaries, later stages of the same investigation involved additional strange material recovered from inside the mesa, including a highly malleable metal sample that appeared to unfold itself after being crumpled, and a green gelatin-like substance found near an apparent impact mark in the ground. According to those same accounts, one crew member involved in the discovery reportedly hesitated to come forward with the information at all, expressing concern relayed secondhand through other team members that government authorities might take control of the site if the material became publicly known. This is a reported claim within the show's own narrative, relayed by cast members to each other on camera, not an independently confirmed government interaction, and it should be understood as exactly that: a documented piece of the show's storytelling, not a verified historical event on its own. It is this accumulation of unexplained material, the void, the impenetrable object, the malleable metal, and the gelatin substance, that appears to be the basis for the reversal at the center of this story, a documented shift within the same production arc. From the team's initial excitement at finally breaking through years of drilling resistance to a far more cautious posture once the contents of that breakthrough became apparent. According to the network's own episode descriptions, the broader warning about disturbing this ground, once treated mostly as regional folklore, is explicitly described in later marketing materials as becoming, quote, all too real, unquote, once the drilling operation was underway. That phrase comes directly from the network's own promotional language for the relevant season, not from outside dramatization. It is worth taking a moment to understand why claims like these, an impenetrable object, a self-unfolding metal, an unexplained gel, generate so much excitement and so much disagreement at once. Each of these represents a physical sample or a physical event, that was, at least according to the production, actually filmed, and, in the case of the metal, actually handled on camera. That places them in a different category than a purely verbal claim. But physical presence on camera is still not the same thing as independent laboratory verification, chain of custody documentation, or peer-reviewed publication. A television production controls its own footage, its own narration, and its own framing, and no outside laboratory result addressing these specific MESA samples, comparable to the university analysis conducted on earlier metal fragments from the site, has been made public in a peer-reviewed form. That gap between compelling on-screen material and independently confirmed science is exactly where a responsible telling of this history has to stay honest. There is also a structural reality worth naming directly. The secret of Skinwalker Ranch is, at its core, a produced reality television program created for commercial viewership, now running multiple seasons. Multiple scientists, skeptics, and outside researchers have publicly raised concerns that the series presents inconclusive or ambiguous events using dramatic editing, ominous framing, and ongoing narrative tension techniques that can make an event feel far more conclusive and threatening to a home viewer than a more clinical, unedited account of the same footage might convey. This criticism does not mean the drilling event, the void, or the recovered materials were fabricated. It means production incentives and independent scientific verification remain two fundamentally different things, and a series that depends on sustaining mystery across many seasons has a structural reason to frame each breakthrough as more dramatic, and each new material as more dangerous than a strictly clinical account might otherwise support. At the same time, fairness requires acknowledging the other side of this tension honestly. Dr. Travis Taylor holds a genuine doctorate in optical science and engineering and previously served as a scientific advisor connected to the government-funded Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, the same Pentagon-linked initiative that the New York Times confirmed in 2017 had a financial connection to research associated with this property through Robert Bigelow's aerospace company. Taylor has stated publicly, in his own professional capacity, that he believes some of what has been recorded at the ranch defies conventional explanation. These are not fringe figures easily dismissed. They represent a genuine, if contested, thread within real scientific and defense research communities, willing to take unexplained phenomena seriously, even without reaching definitive conclusions. It is also worth placing the warning itself, the idea that certain ground should never be disturbed within its proper cultural context, because that context rarely survives dramatic retellings intact. According to journalists who have spent time reporting from the region, long-standing caution around the ranch predates any television production by generations, rooted in the area's indigenous history rather than invented for entertainment. Brandon Fugel himself has described, in interviews, encountering blessed animal remains left along the property's fence line, which he attributes to people from the nearby reservation performing protective rituals intended to keep what they describe as harmful entities contained within the property's boundaries. These accounts are reported claims relayed by the ranch's owner, not independently confirmed events, but they matter for understanding why a warning about disturbing the ground was never simply a plot device invented for the show. It reflects a real, lived caution that existed long before any drilling rig arrived, and folding it into the marketing language for a single dramatic episode risks flattening a genuine cultural tradition into a jump scare. There is also a quieter, more clinical explanation worth weighing seriously alongside every dramatic claim connected to the breakthrough. Industrial drilling operations are inherently hazardous, involving heavy machinery, confined underground spaces, unpredictable rock structure, and genuine physical risk to crew members, regardless of what, if anything, is inside the ground being drilled. A moment described on camera as dangerous and threatening could reflect a genuinely unexplained encounter. Or it could reflect the ordinary, well-documented hazards of deep rock drilling itself. Equipment strain, unstable void collapse risk, or simple crew alarm at reaching an unexpected cavity after months of resistance. None of this proves the event has an entirely mundane explanation, and it would be equally irresponsible to assume that it must. It simply means that real physical drilling risk is a factor any honest account of this footage has to weigh alongside the possibility that something genuinely unexplained was involved. Let us look now at the people who actually shaped this specific chapter of the ranch's history. Thomas Winterton, working alongside Mark Construction Incorporated, led the physical drilling operation, documenting the slow, difficult progress through solid rock over multiple seasons before the eventual breakthrough. Eric Bard, the principal investigator, coordinated the broader technical survey work that guided where the drilling ultimately targeted inside the mesa. Travis Taylor brought credentialed scientific framing to the analysis of what the drilling produced, connecting the mesa findings to a much longer thread of government interest in unexplained aerial and ground-based phenomena. Brandon Fugel, the current owner, authorized the extended drilling campaign after years of caution, and has described in interviews starting the entire process as a skeptic before the accumulated findings shifted his own thinking. And behind all of them stands the 3-decade foundation that made a void and an impenetrable object feel significant in the first place. The Sherman family's original reports, beginning in 1994, the NIDS investigation Bigelow funded, starting in 1996, the 2005 book that introduced the ranch to a mass audience, and the 2017 reporting that connected a real Pentagon program to research tied to this property. So what does this specific chapter, the breakthrough and the reported urge to seal it back up, actually tell us once we separate the marketing from the record? It tells us that even the ranch's most dramatic modern claims tend to rest on a real foundation, real drilling contractors, real seasons of documented slow progress, and real on-camera material handling, layered underneath entertainment framing built to maximize suspense across many episodes. It tells us that a production can genuinely capture something its own team experiences as alarming, without that alarm ever translating into independently verified, peer-reviewed confirmation of what actually caused it. And it tells us something about why this particular story lands so effectively with audiences, that the emotional arc of anticipation followed by regret, wanting something for years and then wishing, however briefly, that it had stayed buried, is one of the oldest and most human story structures there is, regardless of what was actually inside that rock. So, after years of drilling, a documented void, an impenetrable object, and reportedly strange material recovered from inside the mesa, what actually happened when they finally broke through? The honest answer is that we have a documented multi-season drilling operation, a network-confirmed account of reaching a void containing an object the equipment could not penetrate, And subsequent on-camera material, the production itself describes as dangerous and threatening, none of which has been independently confirmed through peer-reviewed science outside of the television production itself. We do not have confirmed proof of what that object actually was. And we do not have independent verification that the teams reported unease translated into any lasting physical danger beyond what was filmed and described by the production. And maybe that is the real ending here. Not a monster sealed inside solid rock, and not a secret the ranch was never meant to give up, but a documented reminder that the closer any investigation gets to an actual answer, the more that answer tends to resist easy confirmation, leaving a mesa in the Utah desert exactly where it has always been, breached but still, in every way that matters to science, entirely unexplained. The drilling equipment is gone, the void has been documented, and the crews have moved on to other seasons and other sites. But the mesa itself remains standing exactly as it did before anyone ever broke ground, quietly keeping whatever answer it was, actually holding, waiting, as it has for generations, for the next team willing to ask the question all over again.